Steve Smith, the newest member of the Ravens, going to join us right now on the Sports Grill guest line, voted best wings in Miami. Find your location today online at sportsgrillmiami.com.
I really like this guy. He's violent, he's interesting, he's introspective. He's an interesting combination of vulnerable when he goes introspective, and he'll also beat you up. Steve Smith of the Baltimore Ravens with us on ESPN Radio. Thank you for being with us, Steve. Is that an accurate description? Did I just describe you pretty accurately?
Yeah, I think so. Obviously our job, it is a part of you. When you play a game or do something so long, it becomes part of you. But it's not. It doesn't sum you up. So I think that was pretty fair, accurate description of myself.
Who's a guy in the league, Steve? We've seen you get into some back and forths with guys. Last year, you had two of them that were fun to watch. Who's a guy in the league that you really don't like? You like playing against him because you really don't like him.
Well, to be honest, if there's not really a guy that I dislike, because at the end of the day, people look and say, oh, they got into it, but it's always a respect factor at the end of the game, shaking his hand, because I do understand what's going on and really how much guys see, you guys got me in trouble. I'm getting pulled over by the police.
Right now while we're talking to you?
Are you really?
Oh,
yeah.
No.
I gotta see how this works out, though. You just got to tell him you're Steve Smith.
Were you speeding? Were you speeding?
No, I'm not speeding. I guess I'm on my cell phone. So,
you're not allowed to be
they might just be
keep
messing
me on hold while I go through the procedure.
Okay, and then you'll tell us about it when you come back?
Yep.
All right, we'll wait for you.
It's amazing.
Okay.
I think they just messing with him. Sounds like a man his height driving a car that nice. They don't believe it's his.
Yeah, but you know what? It just dawned on me because he's in New York today. I believe he's in New York because he did Good Morning America today. And you cannot drive.
I have a hard time.
Mamani,
I know what you're saying.
I've been pulled over.
I'm asking this. You think Steve Smith is driving a car in New York City if he doesn't live there?
It seemed like he just said he was driving.
Yeah, but that don't sound like he's still. I don't know where he's at. It doesn't sound like he's in New York still.
Could be a rental car.
All I'm saying is this: a man his height driving a car that nice, they want to mess with you. That's what all my short friends tell me.
Are you guys believing the idea, though, that he doesn't have any animosity toward anybody that he played against? I mean, he had a couple last year with Talib and with Janoris Jenkins, right?
The Janoris Jenkins one seemed real. The Talib one seemed temporary.
Yeah, I'm not buying it.
He's a super emotional player. Like, who's a guy? Because usually, do you think of Steve Smith as likable? When I say Steve Smith, likable, yes or no?
Yeah.
I like delinquents, but people seem to like Steve Smith in a way that I find confusing.
Well, that's what I was going to say. He's punched two teammates in the face and sucker punched two teammates in the face. Usually that guy doesn't get to be liked.
It's kind of like, for me, though, and I'm not saying he's crazier than Ron Artest because he's not, Meta World Peace, but it's kind of like that where he does some things on the field, on the court, maybe you scratch your head, get a bad reputation, but off the field, he seems like a really good guy.
But what it is that they both expressed a level of contrition, and you have seen a level of evolution. Because, look, the Ron Artest that we had coming in the league in 1999 was out of his mind. This more benign, cuddly Ron Artest, or Meta World Peace, is a completely different person than the one we first got to know. Remember snatching the camera out the cameraman's hand and slamming it down in the tunnel at Madison Square Garden? He's so far removed from that.
You know what, though? I think that what we have now, though, in 2014 that's different with the access to these guys is we just have a more complete picture of Ron Artest than we would have had at the beginning, because we find out that on Twitter he's going and visiting a Korean family and having dinner with them because they reached out on Twitter.
But I also don't think he was going to the Korean family's house for dinner back then. Right? Like, I think we had a pretty good picture of Ron Artest. He was pretty well and thoroughly explained. He just kept doing stuff.
I mean, he was from Queensboro. He's from an incredibly rugged part of the country.
Somebody needs to write a book on that fascinating project, but that's a different discussion. But Steve Smith has been publicly contrite about all of those things that he's done, and that's the difference, I think.
I need to hear if he got out of this ticket.
All right, Steve Smith back with us now on ESPN Radio. You must have gotten out of the ticket if you're back that fast, right?
Hey, when you don't have any warrants or prior arrests, it goes a long way to being a good citizen.
Did you drop the Steve Smith card at all? Did you do that?
No, I didn't. My ID does that.
Okay, the ID does do that.
Does your ID say NFL wide receiver on it?
Is
the cop a football
my
fan?
ID cleared as no priors, so I was good.
And what'd you get in trouble for? Being on the cell phone?
Nah, hey, a brother driving a nice car, sometimes they got to make sure registration all matches up.
You said short. You didn't say that.
I was simply being funny. I said a man that height driving a car that nice, they probably mess with him because the white folks listening get all sensitive when you spit that real.
I'll just, whatever.
Amani nailed that, man. Steve Smith with us here on ESPN Radio. Were you mad at the Panthers, anyone with the Panthers, when you learned they weren't going to re-sign you?
No, actually, I was still on the contract. No, I wasn't mad. I understand. I truly do understand the process. I understand how the job works. I may not agree with it. I don't think any employee that's been let go, let me say like this, fired, let go, laid off, escorted out of the building by security, ever goes, thank you. You know what I mean? That just doesn't happen. But it happened, and so there's nothing I can say bad against the organization that for 13 years dealt with me, fed up with me, allowed me to work. And those 13 years allowed me to be able to, even though I was released, be able to still go out and display that I can still play at my age and get another job. So either way, I still won. And also, too, I love this city, and it was just a great opportunity to raise my kids and I have my family here. So I have nothing to say bad about an organization that's given me so much.
Steve Smith, Baltimore Ravens, with us on ESPN Radio.
But it seemed, at least from this distance, that you were frustrated to be reading about what was going on and having not heard about it directly. Is that fair to say?
I would have liked to know something prior to it being said in the media. I think I don't care how many years you've been in the league, I think you're always owed the first opportunity to know you're going to get fired. It would be like if I worked for a company and they're going to let me go, and then when I try to use my card, my security clearance, that's how I found out. When it wasn't allowing me. So that's
how did you find out exactly? How exactly did you find out?
Well, I mean, after I was known, when I woke up that morning, they said they were going to do something. When I woke up, that I was being released, and so I took it as that and moved on. I had a conversation with Gettleman, and we talked, and nothing was stated clearly, because it was also, I had a lot of things going on, a lot of moving parts. They had things going on. So over time, it kind of revealed itself to exactly the plan, and I was fine with that and dealt with it. And, and now I'm a Baltimore Raven and happy to go out there and see if this old man can still play.
Did you ever think they were afraid to tell you?
To be honest, I didn't really look at it into it that deep. I understand the business. I know how it goes. And so, I honestly have moved on because I'm a Baltimore Raven now. That's my concern. When things happen, good or bad, here in Carolina, I'm a fan. Huh? Okay. Oh, well, cool. When something happens in Baltimore, that's when I'm concerned.
What do you say, Steve Smith, to the person who believes, hey, they needed to get rid of Steve because it needs to be Cam's team. It can't be Steve Smith's team and Cam's team.
I'm a Baltimore Raven. I can care less about that right now.
Okay, fair enough. We were talking before you were pulled over, we were talking about you're a rare creature in that you've had 2 public fights with teammates, and yet people like you. And usually the guy who has that on his resume doesn't get to be liked. You got any theories for why that is?
Well, to be honest, I'm straightforward. I shoot people straight, whether I'm wrong or right. I understand when I'm wrong. I don't have a problem with admitting that I'm wrong, and obviously I've been wrong, in these instances. And I'm married. I've been married 14 years. I know what wrong looks like, and I know how to, I know how to handle something when you are incorrect. And so, but at the same time, I haven't hid behind it. I know a lot of media uses that as a way to put me down. That's the only thing they, I always find it interesting when I hear media say I have to write this article and state what you've done as if my 80-year-old grandmother was reading the article. Well, if that's the case, then you need to state all the other things that I've done. Close to almost 300,000 pairs of shoes I've given away over the last 2 years. all the other things that I've done, the charities and, the $100,000 I gave to Aurora victims. So there's a lot of that stuff that they don't mention. And so when I hear that, I just kind of go, that is the way they want to spin it, so I'll allow them to spin it that way.
How is Steve Smith different now than he was 10 years ago?
Well, I believe if you're not improving and progressing, then, you become obsolete. And I think that's the case with anybody. And I think that's the reason why I've been able to play this long. When I was 10 years ago, it means I was 34, 35 years old. I was like any other person who you give a lot of money to at a young age, mishandled. Think the world is evolved around him and has a skewed perspective. And I think any young man with a professional career sees life a little bit differently at 24 and 25 than he does at 34 and 35.
Steve Smith with us here on ESPN Radio. As luck would have it, the Ravens play the Panthers this year. Are we going to see some blood and guts?
I just said that just kind of joking around, just trying to make light of honestly, of a situation where there's a lot. When you get released and go to another team, when you've been somewhere for a long time, you got to be able to laugh at that because, honestly, behind the laugh, there are some tears. I was emotional behind closed doors with my wife. Like, what does this look like? What's going to happen? My kids are looking at me, Daddy, what we're going to do? How are we going to make this decision? I'm an old head, and I got a 16-year-old son who's in high school. I got a daughter who's, in the 7th grade. And so, these kids, Charlotte's their life. And so Dad has to make the right decision, not just for football, but that impacts your family altogether. So when you have that pressure, it gets emotional because now everybody's asking you, what does it look like? And I've never become a free agent. I've never been through that process. I've never been fired from a job or released. So it was new to me, just like it was new to my family.
Well, after all this time, it's almost got to be like going to the new school. Or they get all nervous about going to a new team after being with one for so long?
Oh, very nervous. I was trying to figure out where the bathroom was. You got to figure out everything. Everything's new. Place to live, the ticket people, just everything is new because every company does the same thing, but they do it in a different way.
If I give you a do-over through your career, Steve, one do-over, even understanding if maybe you're not a guy who does regrets and treats them as learning lessons, what do-over would you like?
I wouldn't want any do-over, and this is why. If you alter one thing in my past, that has the ramifications to alter many more, and you don't know what that looks like. So I can't change that because a part of my past has made me who I am, and it's made me realize some of the faults that I have, that I've done, and the person that was in the mirror 12 years ago that I disliked. And I've tried very hard to be myself, but at the same time not be fake. And what you see is what you get, but at the same time, I truly believe, the things that I went through has made me a better individual. And you can't tell that by looking at a guy if he's yelling or he gets emotional on the field, because I'm on the field for 2 hours, or I may be interviewed by a guy, not even every day, but maybe 20 minutes a day for 4 months out the year. I've been married for 14 years. I know things about my wife and learning things about my wife that are new to me today. So you can't possibly learn someone inside and out by putting a microphone in them and watching them play football when you're not there watching them be a dad or a husband or a man. You can't. And if you're going to lie and say you are, then you're just judging, and you already have your preconceived notion of an individual. So just shoot it straight and say that you're a judger.
If I ask you to go back and look at the guy from 10 or 12 years ago that you didn't like, what is it that you wouldn't like about him?
I would say the inability to, self-evaluate.
Because you were too emotional, or what? Like, what were you?
Yeah, I just think, I wasn't capable of really seeing what I saw as I became older.
Okay, that comes with wisdom and experience. We're happy that you're still in the league.
Me too.
Thank you for being on with us, Steve. We always appreciate the candor.
Oh, I appreciate it.
Congratulations, and try not to get pulled over. We're back after this.